Welcome to Conversations on the Couch. I am Dr. Danielle, and today we have an exciting episode, at least not for me. I do not like to talk about finances, but here we are because it's a really important topic for us to get into and definitely something that impacts our mental health. So today we've got Keshia and Kentis here joining us to talk about financial well being and all the components that are a part of that. So I'll turn it over to Keshia so that she can introduce herself and let us know a little bit about her and her work in the financial services arena and also the wellness space. Keshia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Keshia Cameron. I am a licensed mental social worker and a therapist at Love and Kindness Wellness Services. I provide therapeutic services to those who identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. Um, in my daytime job, I am a program coordinator and social worker for the Achievement Initiative at Columbia University. We provide services for schools in Harlem, and it's more of a youth retention and development program that comprises of social emotional support, leadership development, volunteer civic service, and overall support for the school for grades 6 to 12.
Great. Thank you, Keshia.
Mhm.
Kentis, tough act to follow, but I'm sure
That's
you'll do well.
that's pretty tough to follow. Hi, my name is Kentis Ellis. I am a accountant. I own my own business, and I provide services, financial services to different clients in various forms, from bookkeeping to tax. And I'm also a licensed real estate agent for the state of New York and Georgia. So I do a lot within the financial sector, and I usually help to guide clients throughout the process of whether buying a home or just managing their business or even their own personal. So yeah, I'm not like Keisha, but I am Kentis.
No, everyone here, and the reason that you're here is because both of you have a lot to offer, and I hope that our watchers or listeners today can really benefit from the things the two of you have to say. Looking forward to an amazing conversation on everything financial based. So I asked you both here today because I know personally that whenever I have to talk about my finances, I kind of go into a shutdown mode. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to see the numbers. I just kind of spend as though there's an unlimited supply of money available to me. And as you might guess, that has caused me some trouble in the past and the present, as in right now. And I wanted to really change my narrative and my story about finances and just the way that I think about money in general. So, if the two of you could just tell me a little bit about your journey and how you even arrived to working in the financial spaces, Kentis as an accountant, Keshia as like a financial therapist, like how did you two arrive to this particular place in your careers? And either one of you can go first.
Oh, Keisha, you can go ahead.
Um, Thank you, Kentis. I always have been interested in financial wellness. I think it stemmed from me growing up and suffering a lot of job losses in my life. And I wanted to change the narrative, so to speak, because currently, and as I'm working through it, I do suffer from a scarcity mindset. Um, and I wanted to learn more about my scarcity mindset as relation to my mental health, as well as of the opportunities that I could afford, but I choose not to because I was so consumed and wrapped up with the cost. So I took an opportunity to learn about financial social work through the University of Maryland School of Social Work. They had a continuing education license for financial social work, and I wanted to learn a little bit more into that and kind of hopefully start healing from the financial trauma that I was inflicting to myself. So I took the course. I passed the course, and it was a very interesting course. And having conversations with my friends, I noticed that a lot of my friends do not know anything about like Roth IRA, or they don't know about IRA or any of retirement. They don't even think about doing the retirement plans. I, on the other hand, was like, sign me up immediately. Only because I saw my old version saying I am not working. Yeah. So it was just an interesting topic for me to find that I am in the company of people that do not know much about the financial wellness. And I have friends similar like you, Dr. Danielle, where they like, oh, let's live life, spend. They don't even think about it. And here's me like, so how much was that exactly? And then counting the costs and just making sure that it's aligned with my budget. So yeah,
B word.
It's a heavy word right there these days.
What is that?
But I also understood that in trying to so focus and be so restricted in aligning with my budget, I was missing out on life. You know, I saw my friends and got envious of them going on vacations or attaining luxury items. And here I am sitting and counting my pennies. And I thought, I was just like, no, I could afford this, which is honestly the truth. I can afford it. But I choose not to because I live in that scarcity mindset of I suffered a job loss and I didn't want to spend because I needed to keep my money just in case. And I learned that from my mom, where she's like, just in case. And you can't pry a dollar out of my mom's hand, but she has regrets. Yeah, she has regrets of not investing in the home. And like she sees her brothers and sisters, you know, attaining financial wealth, and she still live in the same apartment. She's happy, but she also thought like, wow, I only go to Guyana and come back. I don't travel the world like my sisters and brothers. I just do something that is normal, that makes me happy, but also sadden me at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, I mean, hindsight is always 20/20, right? When I was in my 20s, I said, I'm going to put 1% of my paycheck to my 401k. Why? Because I need my cash now and I need to go on vacation now. Retirement, I'm in my 20s. Who even cares about retirement? That was when I was young and I had energy and I didn't want to retire, you know, about 15 years earlier than 65 or whatever it is. I have learned the error of my ways. And now I'm just like, ooh, 10%, 20%. Yeah, let's put that into the retirement so that, you know, I have something there. I do want to just circle back, Kentis, before we get to you, to the scarcity mindset that you brought up, Keisha. And if you could tell us, you know, Kentis and I, and also, you know, those watching, what that means so that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I think the scarcity mindset is you think of yourself in a room of lack. That's all you see in lack. And then it's like sitting in the room knowing that you have the affordability to turn on the lights, but you refuse to turn on the lights. And you know you could see the lights, but then there's something telling you can't turn on the lights. And I think my mother makes fun of me because she's like, oh, every time I come to your house, it's darkness. And it's like, I pay the light bill. Yes. I said, don't you see the sun? It illuminates the room. So I am fine with just using the sun. I wait until it's fully dark for me to turn on the lights. And that's the scarcity mindset, is knowing that you have the resources to spend, but you refuse to spend it because you always think of, all right, if I spend this money, then I'm gonna be short $1,000. That means I have to crunch the budget even tighter, live even more to the extreme last for me to accumulate back the money, but also accumulate the second part of the money, which is another $1,000 just in case. So you're missing out on light, you're missing out of opportunities just because you shrink because you don't see the light or this turn on switch.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that everything in moderation, right? Like there has to be some kind of harmony because so you can see I have all the lights on right now. I definitely do not. I live in more of an abundance mindset. Like money will come. It will come. And just go on the vacation now. Buy the things, right? I'm always Kentis is my accountant, so I'll say, yeah, I'm gonna. I just spent money today, just so you know. He says, how much? I just spent, just so you know, right? So my work is to continue to have an abundant mindset, but to make sure that my finances match it, or that my mindset matches the finances that I have.
Right.
So that I'm not overindulging. Yeah.
It's for me. It's kind of hard, only because you want to live an abundance mindset, but I guess this is the spiritual part of it. It's like you don't have the faith in living in that mindset because you see so much of the world, and it's like, okay, the world is interfering with the faith that I will have the abundance, and it shrinks back to like the scarcity of like, okay, I have to be mindful because I see, and faith is I don't see. And that's the struggle of my at the moment of like I don't see. All I do is see.
Okay.
Wow.
I think we might need to come back to that because I feel like that's a really important point and something that a lot of us are struggling with. But I want to get to Kentis so that he can tell us a little bit about how he arrived at this particular journey and place in his career.
I just want to say I really appreciate this conversation. Hearing your perspective, Keshia, as you just spoke about like how you got here. It's very interesting. Some of what I've heard echoed by some clients, even in different ways. But it's very interesting. I must say that before I go on. Now, for myself, I literally did not see myself in the financial industry at all. In fact, I was very much pursuing law throughout most of my college, and I did an internship with the FBI, and they were like, "Well, you are a qualified person because you're a Black male." At the time, I was looking because I wanted to go into the FBI agent. I really wanted to just pursue that field because that was something that law enforcement was something I really wanted to do with my life. And they were saying like, you're qualified as a Black male. However, unless you plan on becoming a lawyer, you're not going to be a good fit for us. They say you need to take a class or you need to consider changing your major from law to accountant or finance. And I was like, not sure about that. I did an elective principles of accountant, and funny enough, it all just made sense. And I'm sitting in a class, and I remember my professor told me, he was like, you're not going to pass this class because this class is really for people that have been studying accounting throughout high school and desire and pretty much wanted to be accountant. And I was just like, yeah, I don't want to be an accountant, but I'm pretty certain I'm going to pass this class because applying yourself is just something that we all have the ability to do, regardless of if we're expert in that area. And funny enough, we bet lunch. he bet me that if I could pass this class, that he would buy me lunch. And I said, he said to me, I wouldn't have to honor that agreement when I lose, because he was so confident that I was not going to pass this class. Long story short, I ended up getting exempt from his final because my average in this class was a 97. And so I didn't have to take a final. And he actually took some time to talk about that in the class and saying like, hey, it's funny that this guy's a law student and he's literally outpacing you guys who are accounting majors. And shortly after that, I decided to switch my major and go down that particular valley. Now, starting out, I really and truly, as I said, like I really didn't want to be an accountant. I really didn't want to be in the accounting space. I thought it was very boring work. I thought it was work that wasn't really fulfilling, not really something that I was even interested in doing. My older brother being an accountant, I saw his hours. I saw how he was working tediously, especially between the months of January to was that about May. He would be literally coming home after like 13, 14-hour days. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to ever get me to do that. Never in your life you're going to get me to do that. Like, I want to live life, and that's not it. Sitting behind a desk trying to figure out numbers and trying to figure out what came from what and how did we get here. No way, shape, or form. I was driven into this field by work environment and conditions that I really couldn't agree with. I decided that after a while, I said, you know what, these environments are really not for me. I never saw myself as being a principal accountant or a person that ran their own firm or anything of that sort, or even providing any type of financial services to anyone, because I just didn't want the responsibility of their decisions, and nor the responsibility of having to correct them or help them even see where they're going wrong. I didn't want any of that on my shoulders. Peradventure that I might have given a bad advice and they might have gone down the wrong lane and they blame me for why their life ended up somewhere that it shouldn't. And I just didn't want it. I decided in about 2015 to go and obtain my real estate license. And it's funny enough, through the practice of real estate, that I realized how much the need was for people to have a comprehension of financial understanding and awareness. And I realized that a lot of my skill sets were things that my clients needed. And I sat in many conversations and many closings, and I'm sitting here like, the questions that you guys had leading up to this, I could answer and help to alleviate some of your concerns where this is where things are, you know. And I've seen bad accountants, I've seen accountants give bad advice. I've seen them sit with different people, and I'm like, that's not what you're telling them is not correct. And but they don't know enough to know that what they're hearing is not correct. And so through the process, I decided to open up my own company and start to provide accounting services, bookkeeping services, financial advice. And that's how I derived to today, where I have clients like Danielle, who's starting out in business and really doing a great job at that, I must say. Though she does live
on camera. That's not what he said to when
she does live in a more an abundant lifestyle than it's fine so long as I believe so long as you figure out a way, or at least are open to hearing from somebody that may know a little bit better to help guide you along those steps. So that way you don't make the mistakes of not having anything put aside for the future, or eating up all of your profits, right? Not something anybody should want to do. So that's how I got here. Man. Here I am today.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Sounds like for both of you, it's not where you originally started, but certainly where you felt like you were called to be, and what was most helpful for both your communities and also for you personally. So, I mean, definitely glad to be in this space with both of you, and looking forward to hearing more about your perspectives on budgeting and what it means to invest in certain ways, or tax breaks and things like that. So looking forward to a really great conversation. So let's start getting into the meat and potatoes of things, right? What are some common challenges that you find when you're speaking with your clients, whether it's in therapy or in the financial arena, that come up? What are those common challenges that you see? And if there are any challenges that are particular to the Black community or people of color that you notice? And also, what are some ways that we can begin to address those issues?
Okay. I'll take the stab at it first, if that's okay with you, Keisha.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I have found that it's very common from my experience, and I've been now doing this for close to 10 years, that many people live above their means. And I know I'm going to seem like probably a party pooper. I'm probably going to seem like a person that I'm gonna throw water on, like, their fire and their passions to live life, because Drake came out with a song, you only live once, and so
Right.
we're gonna live it to the best of it, right? The
Did you just invoke Drake into this?
I'm so sorry.
Wow.
No, nothing. I, I, I used to listen to your music. I live a different lifestyle now, right?
Okay.
Nothing
Fair
against.
enough. Please continue. Let's be
Oh,
serious.
so I have found that many people are living above their lifestyle, and what do I mean by that? We prioritize the wrong things. I have seen more people eat at the fanciest restaurants, buy the latest this, drive the latest that, travel the world, all on insufficient funds. And that mindset of value being in things that really don't add value to their life is the underlying current I see, especially within our community, right? Too many of us are chasing the wrong things and pursuing the wrong things because it seems popular, or it seems like it's trendy, it's media friendly, it's catchy to the eyes, it's whatever have you. But what we don't understand, at least enough of us rather don't understand, is that a lot of these things are made by the same companies, right? But it's just that we're switching out the labels. And so we're willing to, in essence, put ourselves in debt just for the experience that doesn't add any sense of value to our lives whatsoever, and we're teaching another generation to do the same thing. And that's where it becomes now perpetual and a generational issue, because we're showing them now it's okay for us to get a check that's $4,000, but for our lifestyle to be $10,000 month over month, living in insufficiency, right? And it catches up to you after a while. And the thing is that I firmly believe that if you don't grasp that concept, or at least sit back at the table to do the math, to go over the nitty gritties, because the practicalities haven't really changed. The principles haven't changed whatsoever. We may have added different flares to it, we may have added different names to it, but it really means the same thing. Budget,
Mhm.
right? Living within a means that you can afford, living within a place that you can afford. Now, I firmly don't believe that everything, through budgeting, you should be able to allocate for particular adventures you want to take, or particular types of spending you want to do, whatever have you, at different phases. However, that cannot be the priority. And I found that to be a very much undercurrent within our community, because it's almost like, if I'm not wearing this or I'm not wearing that, but that company, you don't own no stock in it, you don't own no, you're not getting a return. So I tell my son this often: you like Nikes? Okay, wonderful. I'm all for you. I like the brand. I like how they put together things. I like the wear of the sneakers. But how much stock in it do you own? So when you're done spending the money that you're spending in the store, right, you can at least get a dividend back on that, or at least add value to some extent now into your portfolio. And that's where the problem is. It's like we're taking all of our earnings, all of the time that we spend to go and earn this money, and we're willing to say we're going to go splurge it on something that doesn't bring back any returns to our life. And after over years of doing that, it's going to be perpetually impossible for you to ever build out of your class, or ever get to another place financially, or even secure wise, because you're literally, in essence, eating your own profit, or eating your own ability to move past the place where you're at. And that right there, until that is really addressed from a practical standpoint, and I do believe a lot of it is also psychological, because I think that some people, you can touch more on that, Keisha, but just from my perspective, because I've had so many meetings and so many sessions with clients where I'm talking to them like, listen, you really can't afford this. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm your accountant. Regardless of what you do, it's not going to affect my bottom line. You
Hey,
know,
hey, hey, hey. We're in this together,
but I would think that if you understand that I'm a person and I'm providing a service, but I also care about you as an individual, that you may want to take heed to some of the things that I'm saying. Because peradventure you don't, and you end up in that tight spot, or you end up in a deficit that you did not foresee at any point in time. Please understand, but my phone has a do not disturb option that I love to use. So don't call me. because I've been telling you what you need to do. I've been trying my best to educate you on this and show you, hey, let's go through your finances. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at what you're spending month over month. Okay, cool. You want to go out? Wonderful. No problem. Do you want to go out and spend $5,000? Or do you want to go out and just spend for yourself instead of buying for the whole table, getting bottle service and all of these things? Like, what value did that add to you? You know, so I digress there.
You know,
It's like a lot of shots.
I'm here trying to hold it together,
Yeah.
but perfect is much needed right now.
Yeah.
I think you know what it is for me. My challenge is not necessarily the luxury things, though I do like those things as well. It's definitely the travel piece, right? I sometimes feel like time is running out, right, to enjoy the things, and I have to do it now, otherwise I won't get another opportunity to do it, right? And I want to have fun, and I enjoy having fun. So it's this like play now and maybe work later. That's been my philosophy. So like a lot of times it is hard for me to say no to an experience. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm already traveling twice this month. That's okay. What's a third one, right? I'm always like, Kentis, I want to book a flight. Is that okay? And he's just like, no, I don't think that that's a good idea. Right? Well, I didn't actually call for permission, so just know when you see it, that's what it is, right? But you make a lot of good points in terms of like what are our priorities, and I know that when I do decide to retire, I'm gonna say, well, maybe that trip internationally was not necessary at the time, and hindsight is 2020, so I can make better choices looking back. But I think changing and shifting my priority to have more harmony in my experiences is what's going to help me with just like focusing more on the financial pieces of my life, right? Another thing I think that I've seen that is a challenge, at least for me, is putting things on paper is so important, right? Yeah. When Kentis is doing the bookkeeping and he'll say like, here's your expenses for the month. And I was like, I spent what?
Yeah.
On what? When? In a month? Why do I have over 50 charges in a month? What am I doing? And then I say, no, you can't count. I didn't spend all that money. I every single time. You've done the math wrong. This is not possible, because the number, I wouldn't even say the number, right? There's a whole lot of shame in the number. Saying it out loud, not the experience of it, because I'm like, okay. But like saying it out loud, it's just like the life that I lived in this month with these expenses does not reflect the number, right? So I think sometimes we just think, oh, okay, we can just do whatever. But if we take the time to look at what it is and break it down, then it's more of a reality and not just like this, nebulous thing that doesn't feel very concrete or real. So that's been helpful for me to see.
I would say to add to, like, I think if I'm being very honest and transparency, you're probably one of my more realistic clients. You really teeter more on the line of that. I have clients that they spend.
So spend more is what I heard.
No, that's not what you heard.
That's what I heard.
But when you really look at it, like the nuances of what you're putting out and you're bringing in, like if I got, I don't want to do specifics, but there are clients that spend, unfortunately they run through about $90,000 a month. It's like, what are you doing?
I wish I had 90,000 a month.
Coming from, but then the input is only like 25,000.
Oh no!
The deficit that catches up to you after a while. Now, don't get me wrong. When in months like that, all you're doing is depleting your savings. So whatever time that money was supposed to be ascribed to later down in your life, you have just ate it today, and that's the problem. That's
right. I think, and thank you both for the perspective and highlighting the challenges. And I just want to put back on Kentis because he hit something very important. Like, we in our Black community, we do not want to learn. We don't want to educate ourselves at all. And I think we focus so much on how we are viewed,
Yeah.
but outwardly. It's very important to have the latest thing because this is what I know. And I think that it has passed down into children at this age where it's like, if it's not this, I don't want that. And it's like, I can give you an example. So I had a student come in and she said, "Oh, this is Lawn Champ, the bag." And I said, "No, this is the Amazon dupe." And that was like $25. And she said, "Oh, well, I have a Lawn Champ." And I said, "Who bought it, you or your mother?" And she looked at me and she couldn't really answer. And I said, "Okay, so when you have your money, are you going to buy the Lawn Champ? Because the Lawn Champ is like I think $100, $200. And she said, "No." And I just say, so you value how it looks on you versus anything else afterwards, because I'm not buying it. My mom bought it. So I'm just living what my mom is buying for me. And I think I stress financial wellness so much to the kids because they have to learn that what their parents are doing could harm them in their future of whatever they want to pursue in their life. Because if they feel like it's okay to spend to the brink, then I'll just, all right, I'll manage. I pinch pants because, my mother pinch pants. And I think the other part of it is, that's how they, right? I know. And I think the other part of it is the education. Like, I had on several occasions had brought financial wellness into the school, and they don't want to learn about it. They're like, "I don't care. I don't care." And it's like, no, you should care. Like, when you get taxes you need to know where the taxes are going. Not just saying, "Oh, they're just taking my money because they hate it." No one's hating on you. Taxes has to go to the very same thing that you just came out of, the MTA. So you have to pay attention to how your money is spent. And I think, like, I break down how the I think the check looks, because they get vexed where they say, "Oh, I'm supposed to get $700. Why I get $5 something?" And it's like, can I tell you? And can I teach you something about what taxes and Social Security is supposed to look like? Because you are forgetting that, yeah, you're young now, but you're going to be old in the next 20, 30 years. And you're going to be like, "Wow, I should have never did that." So I think it's the educational piece, but the identity, I need to catch up with the Joneses. I want to look like the Joneses. I see my favorite celebrity dressing in this way, so I should dress up in this way. But you're forgetting that your celebrities have accountants, financial advisors, and they have a team. They also have a therapist. They have a team that has managed their money and their psychological factors of the money for them to afford the lifestyle. Wow, no shade. You live in the projects. So and it's really no shade, but that's the reality of it, because they only see, they going on trips and everything, and they could afford these houses and afford these purchases, and then they see what their mother are doing and saying, "Okay, well, I could emulate what my mom do and still live the celebrity lifestyle."
Kentis, did you want to hop in and say something? I might have cut you off earlier.
Oh no, you didn't cut me off at all. I was just agreeing with you, because it's an emulation that doesn't help. Who you really trying to keep up with, for what purpose? And after you buy that, because the celebrity got it for free, right? So they're willing to endorse it to sell to you for a couple $1,000 off of the fact that they have an influence in your life that might motivate you to buy this. That company is making a business transaction. They're willing to give it to them for free on a business transaction in exchange that you may sell this to people that you have influence over. And ultimately, the end buyer, if they don't understand those dynamics and they're not putting it down on paper, right, to see if whether or not this is something that's even worth purchasing or even in the scope of affordability, it leaves them pretty much holding the check. That doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This leads me to think about another question that I had around just like our money story as people and our relationship with our finances and the value that we place in money, right? So thinking about like the cultural and historical context in which Black people, the Black community, and people of color have come from, I think thinking about chattel slavery, the enslaved people, they were stripped of everything, right? They were stripped of their culture, right? Not all 100% successfully, but a lot of it was stripped of language as well. Religious beliefs, right? Being indoctrinated in the religion of the slave owners, right? And possessions, right? There was no, you yourself as a person and in your ability to work, right? It's more about your work, not your character or anything. That's where your value was placed, like how strong you were, how much of a hard worker you were, right? And you had nothing but maybe the clothes on your back or whatever was, insignificant enough to be given to you. So I'm wondering if, like, coming from that kind of background where you see those people that were keeping enslaved people have all the things, right? And that being like the standard, if now throughout the generations, the messaging has shifted to like, if you want to have value, you have to have things and you have to look like the people that are, that have all the things as well. And that there is, because of like generational wealth gap, right? And just systemic racism, there is no chance to catch up, right? Because the system isn't designed for you to catch up. It's designed for you to be in this place that you are kind of always holding the check because you're chasing this ideal of like what it means to be valued and what it means to be of value as well, right? So what are your thoughts on some like the historical and cultural context in which our stories as Black people, our financial stories have developed?
You want me to go or you want to go, Keisha?
I'll go. I think we could add to this of taking advantage of people too, in that historical and cultural aspects, because I think what I have noticed is that in order for me to fit this image, so to speak, of richness, I will have to take advantage of what the systems had put in place that was supposed to support. And I'll take away, it's like Robin Hood, take away from the rich and give to the poor, but it's the opposite, I have noticed that we are, I guess, seeing a lot of money scandals, where financial scandals, excuse me, where people are taking like these loans and using those who are in a dire state and living off of them. And I think history has taught us that I'm gonna have to take from the weak in order for me to be the powerful. So I think that has shifted more in our cultural and historical norms, because nobody don't know better. Nobody's not going to investigate. Nobody's not going to educate. I might as well do the investigation and education and find loopholes to ensure that I could be more successful than you, but I will take more advantage of the weak so I can stay strong.
Wow, that's a very I like that take. From my perspective, I believe that keeping us out of the educational component or even the the push for the need to be educated, right? In this particular sector has impacted us generationally, right? We talk about slavery, and one of the main things one of the main components from that I can extrapolate is that we were not educated. We were not taught anything. We were not even permitted to read or go past a certain place. And so over time, I can definitely see where that has now shifted from um, those of us who were kept away, right, and seeing that the people that had all of these things being now the more pursued, right? But the problem that we have is that because we don't have the education to understand how that was obtained in the first place and how that was maintained, right? We are now going about it in a way that doesn't really help us. So we got the things, right? But we're broke. We got the things, but we don't have the value. We don't have the wealth that's supposed to be in place to help us sustain our ability now to build and to continue to progress, because we have not been educated enough about the in between. And that's why I think, historically speaking, we have been at a disadvantage, because many things we don't, because we've been kept away so long, and also there are not many people who have the appetite to even want to be educated about finances, because they look at it and they're like, oh my goodness, this is too much going on. This is too much terms I don't understand. This is too it's just too much. But really and truly, if you simplify and you take your time just to get one thing at a time, get down one aspect at a time, over time, you can build yourself up enough to now be able to understand and to strategize properly. But don't count yourself out, especially in this day and age where we're in, where everything is at our disposals. We have Google. We can ask Google anything. You can chat GPT anything. You can ask them, hey, what does this information even make sense? Well, then what's the problem now? It really points back to the deficit of desire to even know, and desire to even be better at this particular handling, because we don't see it. We don't, and because we're not looking at it and we're not writing it down and we're not documenting it to see what this looks like over time, we don't understand the damage that's being done. One of the things I like to do with Danielle and all of my clients that I provide services to is I show you a month-to-month profit and loss that shows you what came in, what went out, and I also show you a year profit and loss statement, year to date, because you have to see what you have done right now in this last month. Hopefully that you might make corrective measures if things are too bad, and what you have been doing over time. Because when you look at the two, you see two different numbers. You may have only spent $2,500 this month, but over the course of time, you may have spent $200,000. So you have to look at both. You have to look at both things. And the same thing I'm saying even a little bit earlier. If I right now I may only be learning one thing, but over time, I now understand what I need to know to be able to tackle this particular area. So.
I just wanted to add something. I think history has taught us that we tend to chase happiness, and not understanding that happiness is fleeting. So if I'm going to buy all these things is going to make me happy, because obviously in the perspective of, let's say in slavery time, my slave master is happy he acquired some more slaves. That means the more is the better. So, and I think that has been translated time and time again, where more wealth, more acquire of items, the latest this, logo that, the more I get, the happiness that will follow. And sometimes if you hear it in, songs, you hear that people are saying, I'm very unhappy and I have the world at my disposal. Exactly. So I think we tend to always chase happiness and not focus on the psychological and emotional factors that we are carrying that could be generationally, and not understanding how to change it through education.
Yeah.
Thank you both for that. I do want to offer like some compassion for folks that are struggling with getting into a better relationship with their finances, right? Like I said, I am one of those people that if I could spend all my time not looking at my finances, that would be ideal, right? And I only plan meetings with Kentis to know how much I can spend from some other day. Right?